while ago, people say a lot that you have to feel in order to heal. And I say that's true, but not so fast. Because actually, if you try to go feel without the inner safety first, it's going to be much harder. And here you can see that, like when you go to trying to feel your emotions, emotional awareness too fast without having the foundation of inner safety, then it's not only not going to work, it's also going to be harmful and re-traumatizing. Yet, first you're going to develop that inner safety, and then, yes, you're going to feel your feelings, but with safety. And that changes everything. You're going from healthy coping to healing, to actual healing, which is when you actually start to reintegrate and, again, heal the wounds inside of you, so that you can become whole again and authentic and miracles. I've seen transformations in people that can be called miracles because it becomes safe to feel all their emotions, and that changes everything.
Welcome back to Talk the Walk, where we explore how to walk your journey of healing, growth, and transformation with more success, ease, and joy.
So in the last episode, we talked about the first pillar of emotional mastery, inner safety. We talked about how your emotions keep you stuck in negative patterns and self-sabotage, and even in patterns that harm you and others around you, because they're trying to protect you from something that they feel is very scary and threatening, which is some emotion inside of you, some part of you that you don't want to feel, especially due to some form of traumatic experience where you learned that that part of you is not safe to have. And so we concluded that the key to healing and transformation, the number one pillar, is inner safety, which is very simply the state where inside of you all emotions, all parts of you are welcome, are safe to be felt and experienced and expressed. And that is what completely transforms your inner world from being in survival mode where you're blocked and stuck into growth mode where you're thriving and achieving your goals and living a beautiful life. So that was pillar number one. But now we need to talk about pillar number two. And why is there pillar number two? Why is that pillar number one not enough if it's so powerful, which it is? Well, first, I want to say that in a way, these three pillars of emotional mastery, they are actually all the same one, just seen from different perspectives and different applications of it, and it's like a progression. But in another way, it's also very important to understand and differentiate the three, because if you just see one of them from one of the perspectives, then you're actually going to be missing something very important and you're still going to be stuck. So let's go into this second pillar and let's see what it's all about and why it is so important. So inner safety, the first pillar, what you're doing is you're initially learning how to return to that state inside of you where everything is safe, right? Where you are in that inner safety, which is, as I was saying in the previous episode, which is your natural state. It's how you're born. It's your nature. We are just disconnected from it. So you are returning to it. And that state, once you learn to access that state again and be there, it is beautiful, life-changing. You learn to go there, so you no longer need to soothe yourself with harmful coping strategies, and it's completely life-changing. But it's not the whole process. So it starts with you learning to go back there, back to that state of inner safety. But then, if you just stay there in that state, which is beautiful, very regulating, and in the beginning, it's completely okay and perfect to just take your time, just staying there, just coming back to that regulation, that inner safety. But if then you just do that and nothing else, eventually that's actually also going to turn into just another form of emotional avoidance. And as we've seen, emotional avoidance is exactly the cause of you being stuck. So, How can that first pillar that is so powerful turn into more emotional avoidance? Well, you learn to access that state, and then you like it so much that you just don't want to go back to feeling all of your, still dysregulated, traumatized emotions that are still there to be healed. You haven't healed them yet. You have connected yourself back to that state, but now you have to bring that state to those emotions, and you have to bring those emotions to that state. So reconnecting with that state is the first pillar, is the first phase, and it's incredibly powerful. But then you actually have to bring it to the unsafe emotions and bring your emotions to it, so they actually feel safe again, they return to safety, and they heal. And that's what the next step needs to be. It's to not only learn how you yourself to go into that inner safety state, but to actually bring that state to all of your emotions, to the different levels of triggers that you have, to the different levels of emotional intensity, so that this is going to be a progress, but eventually every emotion, every emotional state is safe for you to have, to feel, to be in. And this means that you no longer need to be avoiding any emotion anymore. You don't no longer need to be afraid of being triggered. You no longer need to be resisting any emotion. And because of that, it means that you no longer need to block yourself from anything in life, and you can get whatever you want in life. You can do whatever you want in life. You can connect, you can thrive, you can create, you can live in abundance, you can love, because all of the emotions that happen through that experience, they are welcome. They can come to you, come through you, and nothing gets stuck, nothing is resistance, and nothing needs to be avoided. And besides, it's like recovering and reintegrating all those lost parts of you that were previously unavailable to you. And that brings you so much more richness and aliveness to your life and to your everyday moment, that life completely changes. You feel much more present, much more alive, much more connected to yourself, to others, to life, to the universe. You feel much more meaningful, much more everything, much more joyful. Above all, joy and excitement becomes much more present in your life, because you have recovered and reintegrated all those parts of you that have been previously disconnected, traumatized, blocked, exiled, and were not available because of the trauma, because of the emotional avoidance. But now they're available, and so you feel you become whole again. And the quality of your, even if at in the beginning nothing changes around you, the quality of your life itself is completely changed, the way that you are living, and eventually that's also going to change the life around you. So that is the important next step. It's to actually bring that inner safety to emotions, to all the emotions, to the traumatized, unsafe, avoided emotions, and let yourself become able to feel all of them, to have all of them, to welcome all of them, and to have again all of them be part of you, reintegrated. And the danger is if you stay in just that inner safety, but without doing this next level work of actually going into your difficult emotions and feeling them with that inner safety and being with them, reintegrating them, then that's one of the ways that people get stuck in this work. So they learn, maybe you have done this before, you have learned this, self-regulation techniques, you have learned ways to come back to that feeling of inner safety inside of you, and it feels beautiful there. But then you just stay there, and then you don't want to go back to to your dysregulated emotions, and you know that they're still there. So it's not really working, and you feel stuck again. So your life changed because you no longer are doing those harmful patterns to regulate yourself, and you can regulate yourself in a much more healthy way. So now you have healthy coping mechanisms, but you're still stuck. You're still not able to actually go into all of your emotions in life and be flexible and achieve and move forward and have all of your parts and connect more deeply and thrive, basically. And so this is the next step. And this is a step where you bring that inner safety to your emotions. And that's pillar 2. So what do we need to do that? How do we get there? How do we feel your emotions, right? Because if you want to bring safety to them, remember, the reason why they were not safe before is that it's not safe to feel them. So the way to make them safe again is to feel them. And that's why you have probably heard so often that you have to feel in order to heal. And that's true. That's the next step. So how do you feel? So one of the key components of this second pillar is emotional awareness, which simply means that you are able to be aware of your emotions and how they manifest in your body, in your mind, the sensations. So basically, feel them with awareness, with consciousness. And this, there was even a time where I was calling pillar 2 emotional awareness, where I was saying that emotional awareness was the name of the pillar 2. Now I just see emotional awareness as a very important component and foundation of pillar 2. I would say like the sub pillar of pillar 2, but it's not the entire thing, and you're going to understand what, because emotional awareness is the first step. But what happens when you start applying that emotional awareness with inner safety is what you're going to get next. So that's what we're going. So that emotional awareness is the first step here, and it's how you feel your emotions. It's by bringing awareness to your emotions. And this is actually so important because there have been studies that have studied the lack of emotional awareness in people, which has a scientific name. It's called alexithymia. You don't need to remember it, but if you want to know. And alexithymia just means the inability to be aware of your emotions, to recognize them, to describe them. So basically, it's just a complicated word for lack of emotional awareness. And all these states, they have studied and they have observed a very strong correlation between alexithymia and states of emotional dysregulation. So the more people have alexithymia, or the less emotional awareness people have, the more likely they are to have emotional dysregulation states, to be stuck in emotional dysregulation. So there's no wonder, right? Now we understand why, because the less that you are aware of your emotions, the less that you can feel them, then the more you are avoiding them, right? The more you are avoiding them. And so it means that you're not bringing inner safety to them. So there's inner unsafety, so there's emotional dysregulation, and you're stuck. That's what happens. And that's the importance of emotional awareness. So emotional awareness allows you to bring that inner safety to your dysregulated emotions. And the problem is, okay, feel it, but if I don't have it, how do I develop it? And the really good news is that emotional awareness is like a muscle. So with practice, it can be developed and strengthened. And I have seen this with countless students. They start our programs and they come like, I have absolutely no emotional awareness. I don't even know how to feel my emotions. And we teach them how to practice that emotional awareness, how to develop that. And after a couple of weeks, few weeks, they are recognizing and feeling their emotions even in real time as they're happening. So it can be developed, it can be practiced. It's like a muscle, and you can do it too. And you just have to know that the reason why most people struggle with emotional awareness is because, first of all, your emotions are typically automatic and subconscious. So you don't really choose to have your emotions, right? They just happen to you. And sometimes you only realize that you were emotional after the fact, if at all. So it's a little bit in a way how our emotions are designed to work. But most importantly, we can still be aware of them, and that's what you practice. But most importantly, the biggest reason why people don't have emotional awareness is because they are severely disconnected from their own body and mind, and therefore from their emotions. They have a lot of disconnection because of the way that they've been taught to live, the way that our culture teaches you to live and disconnects you from your body and mind, all the distraction, the lack of emotional education, and of course, again, trauma. Trauma disconnects you from your body and from your emotions. And that's why you and many people are not connected to their emotions, but you can develop that, you can practice that. And the really nice thing is that it becomes so much easier and more effective and more powerful to develop this emotional awareness when you have already a foundation of inner safety. Because if you don't have a foundation of inner safety, you're going to have a lot of resistance to feeling your emotions, to becoming aware of them, because it's not safe for you to go there. But if you have a strong foundation of inner safety, then it's much easier, because it's like, oh, now I can go there. Now I can open myself to my emotions and become aware of them. And that's also why inner safety is the first pillar, and this second pillar, which includes emotional awareness, is the second one. And that's why the order that I'm teaching is so powerful and so important. And most people, most approaches and modalities and programs miss it. And that's why people are stuck. And it might be, you might understand now why you are stuck. For example, if you have been trying to feel your emotions, but you're finding a hard time doing that, it might be because you have been trying to do that without the necessary foundation of inner safety first. And that's actually very common. And so when people say, we said this just a while ago, people say a lot that you have to feel in order to heal. And I say that's true, but not so fast. Because actually, if you try to go feel without the inner safety first it's going to be much harder. You're going to find a lot of resistance. You're going to get stuck again. And most importantly, it might even be harmful for you. It might be re-traumatizing, because you go to feel your emotions, but you don't have enough inner safety, so you feel scared and you feel overwhelmed again, and you reject them and suppress them and avoid them again. And so that just re-traumatizes your emotions and reinforces that they're not safe. And this unfortunately happens a lot with people in this healing world. I see that happening a lot, and people get burned by those approaches, which unfortunately they are lacking the full approach, the full three pillars. And that's why these three pillars are so important. They are complete, they are holistic, they are integrated. And that's why I'm sharing them with you, so that doesn't happen with you as well. Like I see happen, unfortunately, many times. The problems happen when people and programs and modalities focus on just one of the pillars independently, or even two, but isolated from the others, or not in the right order. And here you can see that, like when you go to emotional, trying to feel your emotions, emotional awareness too fast without having the foundation of inner safety, then it's not only not going to work, it's also going to be harmful and re-traumatizing. So we don't want that. And so if I was saying all of these, like you're going to have to feel your feelings and so on, and you'll be like, no, I don't want to feel my feelings, right? If you're feeling like panicking, don't worry. It's not yet. First, you're going to develop that inner safety, and then, yes, you're going to feel your feelings, but with safety. And that changes everything. And this is exactly the order that we help you do things in our programs. And that's why we've created them, to help you, to support you on this path in the right order, with the right support and guidance, so that it is safe and effective and enjoyable. So that's why we created them. And as always, you are more than welcome to check them out and join one of our programs. You can find them at starsoulschool.com. starsoulschool.com. But going on, these are the good news, that it can be developed, and that you can bring that inner safety to your emotions, first by developing inner safety, and then by bringing it with that emotional awareness to the traumatized emotions. Remembering always that without that inner safety, emotional awareness is not going to be healing. It's not going to work. It's going to keep you stuck. It's going to be overwhelming and can even be re-traumatizing. Okay? But when you bring inner safety together with that emotional awareness, then you get very deep healing. So this, when you bring these two pillars together, inner safety and emotional awareness, which is not yet the name of the pillar, we're going to get that soon, but when you bring these two together, then you get very deep healing, because what happens is, as I was saying in the beginning, all of the previous emotions that were stuck and traumatized, all the parts of you that were blocked, they are now back. And it's, I'm not going to repeat it. It's everything that I've said at the beginning. You're able to feel everything again, to go for what you want, to love, to be present, to restore all of your parts to wholeness. And that's healing. That's where real deep healing starts to happen, and their life starts to change in beautiful ways. So just to the first pillar, you went from unhealthy coping to healthy coping. And now with the second pillar, you're going from just healthy coping, which is like you can regulate yourself, but you are still, fragmented inside. You're going from healthy coping to healing, to actual healing, which is when you actually start to reintegrate and again heal the wounds inside of you, so that you can become whole again and authentic and connected, and that's just beautiful. And so what happens, and now that's where we finally get to the name of our second pillar, is what happens is, once you have that inner safety and that emotional awareness together, now you're able to go through all of your emotions without getting stuck. All of emotions, all parts of you can come to you, flow through you. You can feel all of them. And remember that emotions, they are energy in motion, right? They're energy in motion. So they are your energy moving where it needs to move. And what happens when you don't allow that energy to move? You're blocking it, right? Because of the unsafety, because of the trauma. The emotion gets stuck and frozen, because the emotion is meant to be energy moving, but it's not being allowed to move. So that's how you get stuck and frozen and overwhelmed and stressed and dysregulated and all and blocked and stuck in harmful patterns and all of that. But now, because you are feeling all of your emotions with safety, finally all of your energy is moving through you and is moving again freely as it needs to move. And before getting here, like, you would get an emotion and you'd get stuck in it. Like, you'd be angry and get stuck in anger for a long time. You'd get sad and you get sadness in a long time. So you'd get stuck in that. But now your emotions, because you'd get stuck because you were not allowing them to move through you. So you get stuck in them. But now you're allowing them to move through. You're feeling all of your emotions. You can go anywhere. And so it's like you're very flexible, emotionally flexible. You can go to every emotion, every state. Everything can flow through you almost like water. And so that's why I actually used to call this pillar emotional flexibility. But I've heard a term recently that I like even better. Now I call it emotional fluidity, because it really it's like water. So it's emotional fluidity. And emotional fluidity is the name that I give this second pillar. It's not just emotional awareness. Emotional awareness is a very important core component to get there. But the pillar itself, it's not just feeling your emotions, it's not just being aware of them, it's like feeling them and being aware of them with safety and allowing them to move through and allowing you to move through all emotions. And that's what emotional fluidity really is at its core. It's the ability to move through all of your emotions, all emotional states, without getting stuck. So it's life-changing. And think about it. If you know that you can feel any emotion, like, just think about this. If you know that you can feel any emotion whatsoever, any emotion in your life, whatever happens, you know you can feel that emotion without getting stuck. What does that make you feel? How does that change the way that you live your life? You're going to feel much more free to do whatever you want, to go wherever you want to go, to build, to try and fail and to achieve and to be successful and to not be successful and to ask that person out and to make that leap of faith and to start that project or that business or make that difficult decision. You're going to be able to do everything because you know that whatever you feel, whatever happens, you can feel all the feelings and you're not going to be stuck in any of them. And interestingly, that reinforces inner safety even more. Because since you know that you won't get stuck, you feel even safer to feel your feelings. So it's a beautiful relationship. And this is emotional fluidity. Emotional fluidity is what happens when you bring this together and when you allow yourself to feel all your feelings with safety from that foundation of inner safety. This is the second pillar. And when you have it, you go from just coping to healing, become whole, become authentic. And what becomes possible for your life, only you can know, only you can tell me. So you tell me, but I can tell you that just these two together, they create miracles. I've seen transformations in people that can be called miracles because it becomes safe to feel all your emotions, and that changes everything. So what would it change for you? Only you can tell me, like, how would your life change if you had this emotional fluidity? Like, what emotions would no longer overwhelm you? Or what emotions and feelings would you no longer feel afraid of feeling? And because of that, what things would you be able to do or try in your life that you're not allowing yourself to try right now? What negative patterns and situations would you be able to completely let go of? And what new cool things would you be able and free to do, to have, and above all, to become? Who would you be able to become if you had this emotional fluidity? So you tell me, you let me know, share it in the comments, and I'd really love to know. So this is a beautiful transformation, and this is all for today. And there's a third pillar that we're going to talk about in the next episode, and this is the one where everything comes together. For now, let me know what would change in your life if you had this emotional fluidity, and share this with someone who you think might benefit from it. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Talk the Walk. If you enjoyed it, like us and send it to someone who you think will like it too. We love your feedback and interaction, and you're welcome to leave us a comment or review, ask a question, or just reach out. Lastly, if today's conversation stirred something in you, remember, you don't have to walk this path alone. Our Star Soul Skill community is where these conversations continue, where you can connect with others on similar journeys and access the courses and support designed to help you integrate this work into your daily life. You will find everything at starsoulschool.com, and the link is in the show notes. See you next time.